So my presentation today, I just called it Working for Yourself. It's about my journey with entrepreneurship, but also the skills that I needed to work on myself to be able to work for myself. You know, there is a lot that has to be learned after you learn the engineering in order to reach into the entrepreneurship world successfully. As we mentioned, I have my Master's of Applied Science in Mechanical Engineering, and I'm the co-founder of Umny Inc. Just a little bit about my motivations, just to introduce you to myself. I was lucky to be born and raised in the Amazon jungle, so I have a really strong connection to nature and a love of protecting the environment. As well, art is something that I practice regularly, and it's really important for me to have constant creativity and self-expression. Finally, housing and energy and the inequalities that come with housing and energy are something that's really personal to me and to my family. So that those are the core motivations behind my career and behind my entrepreneurship. This led me into mechanical engineering because I felt it would empower me to both be creative, but also to be able to design the technology that has a direct impact on the environment, as well as a direct impact on our energy and housing inequality globally. And I found a lot of wonderful experiences in engineering. My research focused on computational fluid dynamics, so that's thermodynamics, computer simulated, and specifically in the field of renewable energy and geothermal energy. As well, I've worked with artificial intelligence and some robotics, some design for manufacturing through that process too, which was really fun. And I've worked as a consultant and as a CTO. I've experienced with a couple of engineering startups through several stages of their development, helping develop the business strategy as well as the technology behind the companies. And that's been a really exciting experience to learn through other entrepreneurs as they develop their own businesses. But I've always had a desire to do my own business, as many entrepreneurs do. We can't get away from it, even if we want to. We just can't help but want to make our own companies. So I've started 3 companies so far. The first one here was a graphic design business, which I ran through my undergrad to help me pay for tuition. And it really taught me a lot about visual communication and digital media. Then in my master's, I started a regenerative agriculture business, which was a way to kind of balance my engineering and my academic research with some practical hands-on skill, as well as to learn business from the side of sales, supply, and the kind of really fast troubleshooting that's required, especially in the agriculture industry, but in all entrepreneurship and all businesses. And then Umny is my latest, sorry, I can't get this pointing right. Umny is my latest project. Umny is a software company. We develop artificial intelligence software, which is enterprise software for companies. We do also have some public software, and the focus is really about modeling nature's complexity. So using my past experience and my co-founder's experience, both in the environmental world, but also in mechanical engineering, and we bring those together. And we develop research and science communication as well. The point is that engineering with entrepreneurship has a lot of opportunity. There is a lot of growth. There are many startups that are founded from an engineering background, and they have the potential to be really successful. And there's also a great potential to have a really big impact on the world because of the combination of these two powerful positions. But these are the 3 skills that I've had to develop, and that I think in my work seeing other engineering companies develop are really important to fully realize that potential and to make that combination work. These are 3 skills that you may not typically learn in engineering, and something that has to be added on in order to make that successful jump into entrepreneurship. The first one is about cutting through technical noise. This skill is really all about communication. It is something we learn in school, how to technically communicate our designs and through reports and engineering drawings, and that's very, very useful in a certain context, but we have to broaden our ability to communicate through all audiences. This is sometimes very challenging for people that come from a technical background because we are used to communicating our technical terms to other technical people. But the reality is that when you're an entrepreneur, you're speaking to a wide range of people. And you really want them to be able to understand what you're saying. And you want it to be understood as quickly and as easily as possible. So I think that it's important to develop a strong ability to communicate in new mediums, to use visual communication, to learn about digital communication, and to work on our interpersonal communication. Which brings me to the other side of communication that's important for an entrepreneur, which is your interpersonal communication with your team, with your clients, and with people that you are hoping to invest in your company. It's really important to practice conflict resolution, negotiation, and other business language skills, which are not natural. We have to learn them. But once you learn them, then you're really able to communicate your values and your intention in the high stress situations that can come up through the process of running a business. So communication is really a very useful tool. The point is that when you don't have impact, or when you have an amazing idea and you want to make an impact, if no one understands that idea, you're missing out on that. I face this a lot with my work because geothermal is a small field so far, and not a lot of people, even in the technical industries, have a common understanding about how it works. So I spend a lot of time developing common understanding about just the science behind geothermal energy and the other stuff that I work on in order to create my own market. I really need to make sure that all the key people are able to understand the technology so that they're interested and they understand the impact I'm trying to have. The second skill is that you need to be someone who is actively looking for new skills and experiences. And this is really, it takes a lot of courage, it takes a lot of bravery, but if you do have this skill, then I think it's a really good trait to have if you're wanting to be an entrepreneur. It's about being willing to do self-learning continuously, all the time, and also to work in an interdisciplinary way. You can learn the most from people. So if you have a team that is from a wide range of backgrounds, which I'm lucky to have with my co-founders, then you're able to learn from their professional experience and their training, but also their personal experiences. And once you build that team, then you can delegate the important business functions to people that are better suited for those, even within your co-founding team. And that can really help. That really makes it run smoother when you have a smooth and understandable position for each person based on their interdisciplinary experience and their desires in their careers. The other thing would be to learn yourself outside the box. So if you are lacking someone who has a specific skill, it's very, very important for you to be willing to learn that skill. When we are small companies, there's no resources to hire initially, so you're going to have to be able to do quite a few jobs at one time. The good news is that it's very fun, it's very enjoyable, and this is part of the reasons why I'm always wanting to be an entrepreneur and why I started Umny, because I want to develop these business skills. I think it's important in my career to learn as much as possible, and being an entrepreneur is a really good way to learn about business and other skills that we don't learn about in engineering. But the other side of that is also to look beyond the traditional education that you may receive. Because our industries move so quickly, especially in software and in engineering, we may be receiving advice that's now outdated, even if it is recent advice or well thought of advice. So I really encourage you to be actively learning and to be creative about where you get your information sources from. My experience has been that there's amazing and wonderful sources of books and audio lectures for learning business skills. But the best advice is to speak directly to people at all levels of their career to learn their experience with business. And that's really the best way to learn. And the third and final skill that I think is important is to build a balance of the substance of your business as well as the story of it. So this is about working on purpose, which is not something that we commonly talk about in engineering or in business either. We like to think of them as impersonal, but I think there's a lot of power when we do bring it back to the personal. The reason for this is that when we use our individual stories, we are able to sustain our motivation through the difficulties and the immense challenges that being an entrepreneur can bring. And so that's really how you build the resilience. If you're guided by your personal story or a story that brings out an emotional and a passion in you, then you're able to make it through these tough challenges and you're able to put in the long hours that are often required. But to balance that as well, because we can't just have a story or just focus on an issue without having a substance or a solution, I really think it's important to also grow a foundation of value. It is something that unfortunately makes a lot of really wonderful and beautiful companies that have a lot of ideals fail, is the idea that they can go on passion alone or ambition alone. It really cannot sustain itself. We've got to find the value, the core value of the company, and constantly build that foundation. Really, really develop the technological value, if it's a technology company that you're growing, or the service value or the product. Whatever it is, it needs to be a strong foundation for the story to carry it into the market and to carry it through growth. But the reality is that when we do empower ourselves with both our story and our substance, we have the opportunity to solve global challenges. And I think that is something that we can take some time to really relish and enjoy that chance, because that's what being an entrepreneur is all about. It's about using our skills and our experience and our labor and our dreams to solve really big challenges. And so I think that's something that can help if you lean into those goals you have and you lean into solving these big challenges. Some examples of, I always get out of breath when I do presentations. Too much energy. Some examples of how I'm doing this with Umny. So my goal of this equitable housing is something that I'm working through software and through my clients who are engineering companies, because I'm building software using artificial intelligence that can enable more renewable energy to be built. When we have more renewable energy, we have, in most cases, lower energy bills, which is helping with our energy inequality and our energy poverty that's across Canada and across the world. And also when we can streamline the design process, when we reduce the amount of time that it takes for the designers and the architects to design these buildings, we can help to reduce the cost of these buildings in the long run. So that's how I'm addressing this very important goal to me through my work. As well, I'm focused on energizing remote communities. This is because I grew up in a remote community. So it's really easy for me to empathize, because my dad ran the diesel generator that powered all of our homes, and I know that there's people across the world, and I have been lucky to meet them, who also rely on diesel generators. In Canada in particular, there is an alarming amount of people that rely on diesel generation for all of their energy in spite of our extreme cold climate. And this is a real issue that engineers and entrepreneurs can both address. So I focus on this topic by using science communication. I am aiming to communicate both the issues that are faced by remote communities to non-remote audiences, because it can sometimes be difficult to get that message out. But I'm also aiming to communicate the science of renewable energy and of technology so that it is accessible to a wider range of people, so that individuals themselves can create their own energy independence and create their own renewable energy systems, however remote they may be. And finally, I'm focused on regenerating our environment. I love sustainability and renewability, but I think regeneration is even the future. I believe that we can, through our technology, we can create systems that heal the environment in really scientific and thorough ways. So one of the ways that I'm addressing this is through some of our public software, which we develop with artificial intelligence to characterize the features of the ground. And once we are able to characterize these environmental variables, then in the industries of agriculture, construction, energy, engineering, and mining as well, then they're able to go about their projects with a much more accurate and globally accurate data about the variables of the environment. Once we have this variable information, then we're able to make systems that are more finely and closely attuned to the specific environment that they're being built in, and this reduces some of the negative impact of technology on environment. So one of the examples of this is in our ground temperature prediction. So I'm really focused on the melting of permafrost. And with this AI tool that we've developed, we can find exactly in the locations where permafrost is at most risk of melting. And that's how we can regenerate the environment, by putting our attention and our focus in those areas that we can now map where they are. That's all I have to say, but I do want to leave you with some motivation, because I'm just so encouraged that you're here at this conversation, and especially so late in the evening. It's wonderful that you are interested in this topic, because I think there's a lot of power and a lot of opportunity, and I know that everyone takes entrepreneurship and engineering in their own way, and it's always exciting to see how new people develop it for themselves. You can find some more information. Umny.ca is my company, and this is my personal website as well. And I'm looking forward to the questions.